What if I told you that the rank and file in Hollywood are being led to slaughter, like innocent lambs who have no idea what is going on? We also did not fully understand the level of incompetency that is the WGA and SAG-AFTRA, but now we do. Someone with extensive, decades-long experience with these unions has come forward to us and provided us information that is frankly unbelievable. The only thing is, we have the receipts. And folks, we're here to tell you that the people who are trying to negotiate on behalf of the actors and the writers, they have absolutely no business being in this business. They are utterly unqualified, and there is nobody driving this ship. All right, folks, welcome back to another video of excellence here on the WDW Pro channel. As we have said in the intro, we do plan on revealing quite the thing today. We have had someone reach out to us who has extensive knowledge of the Hollywood unions, of how all of this works, and of the current environment, and why we believe now, based on our conversations with this individual and based on the information and evidence they have provided, that the WGA and SAG-AFTRA as well are leading their rank and file into disaster. And we say that, we mean it, folks. And we think that after you see this video, you're going to agree with us as well. Joining us to talk about this, well, it's a heck of a story here, but joining us to talk about it, Valiant Renegade of Valiant Renegade, Lorena Creole, and Jonas J. Campbell of thatparkplace.com. Folks, let's get straight into what we've got here. We're going to be starting off with an article out of Deadline, just giving us some context for where we are at the moment. This from August 22nd by Dominic Patton. WGA slams studio's latest offering and meeting as attempt to make Guild cave, not to bargain, but to jam us. Here's what it says. Just hours after the studios and streamers made public their latest comprehensive package towards a deal with the striking WGA, the Guild has responded. And it seems the AMPTP and top CEOs might have overplayed their hands strategically. Folks, I'm here to tell you they have not. Based on what we know now, the studios, the CEOs, they are in a very ridiculously strong position, and people in Hollywood probably don't know that, the average one. It says, in fact, 113 days, that's 115 now for those of you keeping count, watching the video, into the writer's strike, talks look to have broken down altogether again. Now, it goes on to talk about why this is being blown up. Remember that the strike from 15 years ago, it only went, I believe, 108 days total. Is that right, Jonas? 108?
Was it 100?
Might have been 100 total. You might be right on that. And then, and there were ramifications for years and years from that strike. It did grave damage to the industry. But, we are far past that. It doesn't look like things are going to get better. We'll talk about why that is in just a moment. This out of Variety, writer strike, AMPTP, WGA set meeting to discuss resuming long-stalled contract talks. This was back from August 1st. This is kind of the slow movement that we're getting out of these unions where they agree they're going to talk on the 1st. We don't get anything happening until the 22nd, and then everything blows up. Now, why does it blow up? It blows up because the unions don't have anyone there to negotiate. Take a look down here at this part. This is going to come back later on in the video. It says, that is the first communication between the two sides since May 1st, when talks collapsed and the WGA voted to go on strike. So it took 2 months plus to even get to the point of agreeing to have talks, and now those talks have exploded. They're done, and we are no closer to the end than we were when we began. The WGA informed its members of the outreach from AMTP to Ellen Stutzman, the WGA's chief negotiator, on Tuesday evening. Now, folks, we're going to get to who this person is, Stutzman, in just a moment. But suffice to say, this is not the person that you want at the table. And there's a reason that you don't want that person at the table negotiating on behalf of everyone involved in the entertainment industry. We'll talk about it in just a moment. Before we do, though, I want to, first of all, give some information that was handed to us by this individual who brought us everything that we know now. And we are going to bring the receipts, by the way. Watch the video. We're bringing the receipts to prove what we're saying to you. We're not going to leave you hanging on this whatsoever. But we just want you to know that there's a history here. This individual brought to us information going back to the 1980s in terms of how the creative side of things, right? Not the studios, not the distributors, not the corporations, but the creatives, the directors, the actors, the writers, how they continuously get hosed over and over. And so one of the things they said is back at the dawn of the VHS tape, right? Back when we were first getting into the ability to have that secondary market, there was a big, big disagreement between the corporations and between the creatives. And so the WGA, SAG-AFTRA, they thought that they were getting an agreement to receive a percentage of distribution gross. However, later on, what they would actually find out is that they had been snookered in the meeting. And instead, they were receiving producers gross, which was significantly less. So the union then, as a result in the 80s, decided, well, we're going to file a grievance. The problem with filing the grievance was that it was not legally binding, and it put them into more than a year of arbitration, which is fairly typical. It was through that non-binding arbitration they would later discover that the AMMTP had essentially tricked the unions with their own union attorneys. And what had happened? Well, the union attorneys had completely screwed up the opportunity, setting forth decades of creatives not getting the money that they thought that they would be due. And so essentially what is being said now is that we're in that exact same kind of a situation. The parallel here is akin to just how much they were hosed all the way back in the 80s. Some more information the source has given us says that the antitrust report that came out about a week ago, I suppose, the antitrust report, that is essentially only for internal consumption. It has no bearing on reality other than to throw some meat to those who are out there striking to make them think that they've got something coming aboard when it's not actually going to happen for them. The union is hoping, and we'll talk about why the union is this incompetent, the union is hoping that there's going to be a white horse legislator or politician that will come riding in and save them from the studios. But that's not going to happen. And folks, here's the big news. The reason it's not going to happen, the reason that the union is being so severely outplayed is because the union went into this strike. They do not have a chief financial officer, and they do not have general counsel. They do not have a lead attorney. They went into one of the largest strikes of all time without the necessary leadership in place. They still don't have the leadership in place. They are utterly and completely lacking in the individuals necessary. We're going to come back to who they do have, but they are missing key components. I want to go to Lorena first. Lorena, is this shocking to you at all that we are in the middle of a strike and that we did not know that the WGA has no CFO and has no general counsel lead attorney in place?
I'm not surprised at all with the way that the WGA has been handling this strike. It's like they feel something's going to fall out of the sky and save them, not think strategically about what it is that they're trying to do. But you also have to remember Hollywood is a big, gigantic bubble for the most part. When I lived out there, I could not believe how some of these people would operate. With the unions, it's just like, the actors union or the WGA, they'll take care of us. We don't have to think for ourselves. We don't have to worry about ourselves. They'll take care of us. And then wonder in the end what the heck happened when they wind up getting some deal that doesn't work out too well for them. You would think that they would have learned from the 80s, but no.
Exactly. And Jonas, you and I spoke with this source. We're probably going to speak again, but we spoke for over an hour. It was amazing listening to the insight and knowledge this person has. One of the interesting things they said to us, Jonas, was that this argument for a minimum number of writers is so ridiculously asinine. Can you talk to us about why that's asinine, and then and fill into what have I missed? Because I've only spoken for maybe 5 minutes, and we spoke over an hour with this individual. What have I missed so far out of this?
Well, there's the current situation with the strike, which is. Should we go over the timeline, the most recent timeline of what is going on with the strike right now?
Absolutely, go for it.
Okay, so Deadline is reporting that there was a meeting yesterday that was called for by the CEOs, not just the AMPTP, but usually the AMPTP is the one in the room negotiating on behalf of the studios. They are the one that is paid by the studios to give as little to the WGA, SAG-AFTRA to all the other unions as possible. And so far, there hasn't been success there, as we can see, because we're on day 115, 113, 14, 15 of the strike. So this meeting happened. David Zaslav was there from Warner Brothers. Let me just pull up the list so I don't miss anybody, so nobody feels left out, like Bob Iger from Disney, Donna Langley from Paramount, Ted Sarandos from Netflix, and Carol Lombardini, who is from the AMPTP. They called for this meeting, and whatever happened with the WGA, they put an offer on the table. The WGA didn't like it, and in a move meant to, I'm going to say, undermine the WGA governing, or the WGA negotiating committee, the AMPTP went ahead and released what their offer was 20 minutes after the WGA negotiating committee left the room. This was in order to let everyone out there who is in the WGA see what was offered to them while they're not in the best financial situation. We're day 115 at the release of this video, and that's 115 without any new work, without I'm assuming people are still getting the payments that were on the way, but they've got to be feeling that heat. And then seeing that some of these conditions that they've agreed to, or this good parts of this offer, like for instance, if anything comes from generalized AI, the writer still gets credit for it, or that certain weekly minimums have been raised from 10,000 to 1,500. 15,000. That's a much better increase than 1,500. Anyhow, the WGA released a letter saying that they're trying to put us against each other. They're basically saying, no, the AMPTP is trying to sow discord amongst the union. Well, we now see that maybe if they don't have a general counsel guiding them, and they don't have a legal negotiator, they do have negotiators, obviously, they're just not qualified. If they don't have anyone at the helm, it makes a lot more sense why they're reacting emotionally here.
Right. And folks, we said we would bring the receipts. Here's the receipts right here. Take a look at this. Current WGAW openings, job openings, right? What do we got here? Chief Financial Officer and General Counsel. Let's read the descriptions just briefly. For those of you who don't know what a CFO is. Under the direction of the executive director, the CFO is responsible for the financial and risk management functions of the guild. You don't have, going into the strike, the person responsible for risk management. Let's take a look at general counsel. Under the direction of the executive director, the general counsel is the chief legal officer. They went into the strike, Valiant, without the persons in charge of the most important aspects of going into a strike, and they still don't have them. Valiant, what in the world? This is billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. People's lives are at stake, and these imbeciles went into a strike without a CFO or a general counsel. What in the world is going on?
Quite simply, you are talking about the intellectual lowest common denominator in America. Sorry, facts hurt. That's what it is. The hubris and the arrogance of these people is legendary. And instead of actually getting themselves into a position to where they could negotiate in some degree of competency, they are now negotiating from a position of desperation and weakness. If you can't find a competent attorney to negotiate on your behalf with your arcane Stalinist labor union out there in California, I'm sorry. If your best hope is having Fran Drescher scream in the streets on your behalf, folks, you're screwed. Good luck. This doesn't surprise me one bit. This is the biggest bunch of idiots in America, and they keep screaming all they want. And I'm not saying that the writers and actors don't have legitimate concerns. They don't have legitimate gripes with the studios. I'm not trying to defend the studios outright. They're all morons, quite frankly. We've covered it time and time again from the financial side of things. These are all a bunch of fools and idiots. one side is far more moronic than the other, and the writers and the actors take the cake in that department. They had better get their stuff together, and they had better get it together fast, because they are about to get run over like a truck, and they're going to be handed their own butts by their own union leaders, just like it's always happened throughout history. Facts.
Let's take a look at Valiant. Let's take a look at what these geniuses have. If you would like folks to apply to be the chief financial officer, we've got their description right here. And, WGAW is an equal opportunity employer. We strongly encourage qualified people with diverse backgrounds to apply. So get to applying, please. Also, if you'd like to be the general counsel of this guild that is currently in one of their biggest and most important strikes of all time, if you'd like to become their general counsel, the thing that they needed when they first began this strike, right here it is. And don't forget that for more information about WGAW and the WGAW contract, please visit www.wga.org. Geniuses. Now, who is actually negotiating for them? Well, here it is. It's Ellen Stutzman.
Oh, a 24-year-old TikToker.
Director.
Excellent. Okay, great.
Right. Well, take a look at this. This is what's amazing. Does she have any history in law or negotiations? No.
Wait.
She's a
But
research
she
analyst.
does. She does know how to post a YouTube short. Damn it!
She's a research analyst. That's who their lead
no.
negotiator is.
She's you know what she does? They just basically lock her up in a room and say, here, find this. And then they take it and wordsmith it to make it sound better. That's pretty much what a research analyst does. And you mean to tell me, not that she's had experience as a writer in Hollywood, but she's an assistant executive director. She's director level.
Right. That means nothing. That means literally. I mean, this is what you get. I'm sorry. I've made fun of this. I've danced around it long enough. You look. Stop hiring half-witted children to run billion-dollar enterprises. Hello, Hollywood. We're talking to you. I mean, this is the same crap as, and the moron that Disney got to put on a Minnie Mouse dress. This is all in the same vein. You cannot continue to hire a bunch of brain-dead children to run your multi-billion-dollar publicly traded empires. The only people out there that are dumber than these kids that you hire are you for hiring them.
And you're
So let's
100% right, because after living in Hollywood for as long as I have, you would see some of these people who would get these positions, not that they're qualified. They just know the right people to get them there.
So we're not here to be, to say that she's an idiot or anything like that. We're just here to say she's not at all qualified for
Not
this
at all.
task. And
Not at
here's the
all.
deal, folks. Here's the deal. You're talking about major global corporations who are bringing their A-team legal eagles. They have firms that have firms coming in to represent them. And the people on strike right now, whether they know it or not, and I doubt they know it, they have a research analyst. They have a woman who is a research analyst. They don't have someone in the chief legal counsel position. Jonas, are we making too much of this, or is this just insanity?
No, you're not. And I'll point out as also a bit of shameless pluggery as well. There's a video on Valiant's second channel called AI Blindsided the WGA with Gary from Nerdrotic, talking about how he had a guy from the WGA basically tell him that they had sent a simple proposal to say, hey, how about we talk about rules against AI? They got silence, and they realized the studios were actually much further along than any of them had realized, making them realize that they had been blindsided, essentially, that things were further along than they had ever imagined with the studios. So they had to do this strike now while they're completely unprepared for the strike, while the studios are in a great position to not spend money. $1 million films, $100 million films, $250, $350 million films. I am not exaggerating about the price of these movies that are coming out from these major studios right now and are flopping left and right. And it is a content issue. Disney would be better off if they did not release films over the last year. Financially speaking, I am not even joking. It would be better to not have made any movies if I have not emphasized this enough. So to tell them, no, you cannot release movies, or to give them an excuse for why their films are flopping, is doing them a favor. So Disney has no reason here. David Zaslav has a bunch of DC films he needs to just get out of the pipe before he can move on to whatever James Gunn and Peter Safran are working over there. Paramount's doing fine, but having a break from content for a little while is not hurting the studios as much as the WGA would like it to be. You're throwing them in the briar patch. And if people don't understand what that means, that's where Brer Rabbit lived. He wanted to be in the briar patch. Don't throw me in the briar patch. Oh, no. He goes in there. He's just fine.
That's why they got rid of Splash Mountain, Jonas, because that it went completely over their heads what that was about. Now, I'll tell you this. We've also got this latest information coming from the same source, telling us that 2 days ago, the Directors Guild had to step in to take immense measures to protect the directors who are currently unable to work because of the SAG-WGA strike. Now, you're going to start getting some serious pressure not only from the corporations, but from the Directors Guild saying, hey, we know that you don't have competent people, but you're going to have to find somebody to strike a deal. Because listen to what the Directors Guild is having to do. Just listen to this. For those whose lack of work due to the strike means their health care benefits will not continue, that's talking about directors, a special in-network only major medical plan will cover them and their dependents if they meet certain minimum credits and work prior to the strike. It is a generous, but it is more detailed than is worth mentioning kind of thing. It's very generous, especially since there's not a limit after X number of months. This is for the duration and until people work enough to requalify for regular medical benefits. Second thing that the DGA is doing, they're making prime plus 1% loans available to people from their supplemental pension plan, which everyone gets and which are partially paid for by producer contributions based on a percentage of income. These loans are available up to $40,000 or 20% of the person's plan account balance with a minimum amount of $1,000. Again, that's pretty darn good, and to be paid back within 5 years with no prepayment penalty, with payments made quarterly. And if you're married, your spouse has to formally approve the loan if it is $5,000 or more. The loans are for general purposes, not available for mortgages or primary residences. And the source says that's the difference, is that the DGA was able to get a deal done. Now they're able to take care of their own members. Meanwhile, the WGA and SAG-AFTRA, they are like a chicken with its head cut off. They have no idea what they're doing at all because they have no head on this union, because they have no CFO and they have no legal general counsel. Guys, thoughts?
Well, the loans they're talking about doing from the pension side of things, although rare, a lot of that will fall under ERISA guidelines. For those of you out there that may be watching right now, if you have a 401k where you work, about half of the 401k plans in the United States have loan provisions. So at any time, you can initiate a loan from your 401k balance. And when you initiate that loan, you have an amount of time to pay it back. Now, usually with the IRS, they'll grant you about, I think, 3 years, depending on circumstances. Now, with pensions, whether it's money purchased, a defined benefit or defined contribution, that could leg out a little bit further. But those do have to be paid back. And the reason they have to be paid back is because if they're not paid back, the IRS comes back and hits you up for the taxes, because this is usually pre-tax money. They'll also hit you for early withdrawal penalties if you're under age 59 and a half. So I would assume that this loan situation from the pension plan is something that is written into the pension under these kind of circumstances. Of course, this being a labor union, they probably have different provisions than most pension plans that people are used to. That would not at all surprise me, because what can a labor union do? They can call a strike and have a situation like this where their members will be without income. So it would not at all surprise me that their pension plans would have some type of ERISA guidelines penned in to the language of the plan that would allow for these kind of loans. And again, that's only going to go so far, because you can take a loan out of your pension, you can take a loan out of your 401k, but if you're going to be without income for an extended period of time, you're not going to be able to meet the IRS requirements to make payments on that loan periodically as time goes on, and it's going to cause a problem. Again, unless the pension has some type of special issue here. But I don't see this working out the way that the writers and the actors are hoping it to work out in the long run. They will probably get some minor concessions, but they are not going to get, I don't think, the big ticket items that they want. And I think the union bosses will, as union bosses typically do in all statist situations, all Marxist situations, as labor unions are steeped in, the bosses will walk away with the riches, and the people that they pretend to actually support will be left out in the cold. That's what a union does.
Perfectly said. Jonas.
Well, Valiant just ruins everything, doesn't it?
That's right. Jonas, you and I spoke with the source who elected to come forward to our channels to share this information, and we spoke for such a long time. Is there anything that I have not clarified or relayed to the fullest extent that needs to be relayed that might have been in part of that conversation? Is there anything left?
No, I think we've implied it. The point I would make based on past experiences is that the studios represented by the AMPTP, maybe they're not always in lockstep, but that's probably been implied in some of the things we've talked about. So, and we can't get into more specifics about that. So
exactly. Lorena, I want to go to you for the last word on this. You've been over there in Hollywood quite a bit. You've lived amongst these people. We're not here to say that the rank and file, your average person who works, going from TV show to TV show, or, is trying to be an extra in commercials or what have you. We're not saying that they're bad people or that they're dumb or that, what we're here to say is they probably don't have any idea that their union is lacking objectively in the necessary people to close this deal ever. So, Lorena, what would you say to all of those people out there who perhaps they're listening to this video right now and realizing for the very first time, oh my gosh, things aren't going the way that I'm being told, inside of all these union publications and messages that I'm getting?
Well, one, if you do not have a personal financial advisor, you need to get one. Number
Call
one.
Valiant Renegade.
Yes.
You're muted.
You're muted. Let me
translate. Valiant. Translate. He said, "Please call me right now."
But it's the absolute honest truth with these writers and with these actors, not for nothing, but they seem to put so much trust into the WGA and SAG. I'm like, why do you trust these people to negotiate your deals? Well, they represent us, and I'm like, okay, but they're obviously not doing it very well, considering with your union, only 1% of you are making those millions of dollars. The rest of you aren't really making that much money. So who has who's back here? So one, get a financial advisor, and two, start funding your own health insurance and things that you can control, because you are not negotiating with the studios. Your union bosses are negotiating with the studios, and they are looking out for them. And as far as you're concerned, you're going to get whatever scraps they want to give you, and you're going to like it.
That's right.
If
and
not,
you got a research analyst who will help you. A research analyst is going to help you against all of those big baddies. One of the funniest stories that the source told us, and by the way, folks, we want to say a huge thank you to this source that came forth to us. We also want to say a thank you to all of our sources who have made it possible to bring you information ahead of the mainstream and access media so that you can stay ahead of the culture curve. But one of the funniest stories was talking about many, many years ago, decades ago, there was a vote on whether or not the union should install voicemail systems into their phones. And this was at the dawn of voicemails. And the story that was told was about how all of these actors who had come to vote on this lined up for commentary. And the person there at this meeting thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe that this many people care this much about voicemails. Why are they, why do they want to give this kind of, line and talk about this? They discovered that all of these actors were essentially using the public discussion time to well, to attempt to get the job of being the voice of the voicemail system. So there you go.
Oh God, it sounds like an episode of Entourage.
It does, doesn't it? And folks, I'm afraid that you're going to need to get some more voice work acting out there, because you're headed in the same direction when it comes to the competency levels of those in charge of the unions. Folks, we hope you've enjoyed the conversation here. Links are available down in the video description to find all of these wonderful folks and their channels. They do such great content. Make sure you go find them. Valiant Renegade, Lorena Creole, and Jonas J. Campbell, thank you for being here again. Folks, it's time for you now to click that like button, share, subscribe, and click it and stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. The conversation has come to a close, but the commentary begins. Tell us what you think about this. Are you in as much shock and disbelief as we are? And can you believe that the trades are not out there posting that, hey, the unions don't have a CFO? Hey, the unions don't have a general counsel? Or are you not shocked at all? Because, well, we're starting to get the feeling that nobody in Hollywood is really telling much of the truth. But we will continue to tell the truth. And folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Clickbait, fraud, drama queen. Ugh, I wish there was a channel that was 5 to 6 minute news reads without the drama, frauds, and clickbait that could accurately let me know the current news, providing my crucial context utilizing all the different That Park Place contributors and creators.
Well, stupid, there is. It's the That Park Place YouTube channel, which will be going live real soon, so make sure you're subscribed so you can really stick it to the algorithms.
You're joking.
Nope.